Buongiorno a tutti, I am Michele De Feuris, journalist. Welcome to the Global Space Economy Workshop. The Global Space Economy Workshop is held for the fourth time in Puglia, thanks to the synergies activated by the Aerospace Technology District led by President Giuseppe Acerno with the European and Italian Space Agency. It takes place in this city and the municipality of Mesagne. A warm welcome to Mr. Nicola Zaccheo, President of Italian Regulation of it, President of the Italian Transport Regulation Authority. A two-day event with a focus of the first day today linked to additive manufacturing in the aerospace. Also in view of the imminent human exploration in the space and the future housing. Companies that develop and produce technologies and the companies that use them will populate the panels of the day. The afternoon will see the own audience engaged in the thematic work, very important work table. The object of the second day is to consolidate the relations among the national and the Puglian aerospace industry, small and medium-sized enterprises, start-uppers, young start-uppers, the financial world that believes in the development opportunity of this sector, and international interlocutors of the European Space Agency and of the Italian Space Agency. A two-day event that sees the participation of 226 registered. We have closed the registration a few minutes ago. 74 companies and 19 research centers and university and a lot of students and many institutions. Aerospace in the current geopolitical context has definitely a renewed appeal thanks to its strategy role, which range from the new mobility linked to drone to the security and the very new sector of the cyber security linked to digital, which has become the new funding element of the European sovereignty. The initial panel is dedicated to this topic, and before the launch we will have the opportunity to interview the Minister Adolfo Urso, Minister of Media. It's the Norman Swabian Castle of Mesagne, with the space adapted from medieval uses to those of an international meeting, allow to approach the future that awaits us with the same determination that characterized the tales about the knights of the time, and with the universal spirit that animated the vision of the Imperator Frederick II through Dominus of the network of the castles in Puglia. And we are the son of the star. It's a very famous Italian song that recites like this word. But above all, we are sons of our time, which now passes with its shape to novelty and modernity right from the aerospace. Last word, here there are many people, many guests that not only speak about aerospace, but are people that know and built, made the very strong way to aerospace, to go to in the aerospace. And now I would like to call on the stage the president of Distretto Tecnologico Aerospaziale Pugliese, Mr. Giuseppe Acerno.
Generally, who presents an initiative like this, as Michele, has got the opportunity to be presented. So, Michele is not only a friend of ours, he's a journalist that writes for la Gazzetta del Mezzogiorno, in Foglio, Città delle Macchine, which is edited by Leonardo Group. And I was very happy to have your introduction, but I'm more happy to say welcome to all of you, and not only to the institution, starting from the major of Mesagne, which is also president of the province of Brindisi, which gave us the opportunity to do this event in this marvelous place that I think along these 2 days will accompany us, giving also that I would say feeling that it's not an essential to the pleasure, but also to the productivity of these 2 days. And this is the 4th edition, as you have already heard. We had to stop 2 years, I would say maybe 3 years because of COVID, but now we are back, and we are happy to see so many of you participating. Michele told you about numbers. We had another place which is populated by the people that is coming before you, which is upstairs, which is the place in which we will also have our meetings around the tables, as you know, in the evening, which is maybe the core of this event. And we have the opportunity, thanks also to the role of the agencies, to have a better exchange of information regarding scenarios, opportunities, challenges, instruments, and why not starting there to understand how this in particular mixture of capabilities, competencies that are from university to enterprises, as I said before, can do something I hope useful, as it happened in the previous edition of this. Why we do it? We do it because we try to follow the spirit of the Global Space Workshop that Mr. Luca Del Monte here represents, and about him, also to Dr. Barbara Tomasi, we will welcome after me. And we do it because this is an opportunity to try to get from space and get from industry that do not belong to space. And the topic of these 2 days, I think that is a good example, starting with the additive manufacturing that better than me, you know, which is going to maybe transform the way in which we will manufacture. And there is a contamination. It is, I think, a great opportunity to use this technology in the space sector, but also give to the producer of these technologies the elements to understand how they better can be derived to the challenges that space has. It was, I would say, sharpening. How can we create structures on the moon when humanity will be there? This is something that no one of you is impressed to hear. Maybe if we go outside from this place, someone would think that we are far away from the time, but the time is already now. Just to give an example of how fantastic can be this contamination between sectors that not necessarily are involved in space. And for this reason, the panel, as you heard, is tentative. I hope that we can reach a goal to have the voices who uses these technologies and produce these technologies. We are also a region in which we have big players as Leonardo or General Electric, which produce with additive manufacturing, as you know, I guess. on the automated fiber placement that is used for the fuselage of the 787 in the Bretagne, to the technologies developed by General Electric in different places, not only in Greece, which has is driving the design and the production of new kind of engine for regional but they are here. I don't want to say something maybe not adequate as they say, and it will be their time when but we do also it because we have I can say everywhere. So we have capabilities in terms of production. There is also prime additive with its spin-off Morphica that is located in the Puglia region that is cooperating not only with the universities, and they will speak about it, just to give you the idea that this is a good I would say, place in which there can be also an opportunity for our companies. We have small and medium enterprises that are dedicated mostly to aerospace. I think that can find also in the space market opportunities to diversify the portfolio of products and services and opening this new market. Also, this is important because we are coming from a period in which, as you better know than me, aerospace has suffered a lot from COVID in particular. The one that produces airplanes, and the Puglia region is characterized mostly in the aerospace and the aeronautics field by the production, design, production, maintenance of the aerostructure. But I would say that we do this because, and in particular, the second day dedicated to the generation of new enterprises, because we have something good, but we also know our limits, and we know that it's very important to enlarge the base, the number of enterprises that are involved in the aerospace field. We know how important is the percentage of know-how, technologies, and how much is driver for innovation in this sector. So our aim is to enlarge, not only as a spectator, but as a protagonist, small and medium enterprises, and in particular young entrepreneurs, or future young entrepreneurs. And for this we are engaging with the European Space Agency, and maybe we will succeed in it, and we are negotiating the opening of a business data center first in the south of the year, 2 kilometers away from here, but this is not the first topic we are negotiating, and maybe we will have the chance in a few months to dedicate another time to go deeper in this. But we do also, because we have, as I told you, the necessity to have follow-up of the activities on other young entrepreneurs, as I told you, enterprises. That's why we are concentrating it in the generation of new enterprises. We are also, you will hear about laboratories that we are projecting, realizing here in the scientific park where we are located, dedicated to additive manufacturing. We have an investment of 4.5 million, and we will create laboratories dedicated to it. We are also adding what we have already won, competing in the European competition for the realization of the Digital Innovation Hub. And so we are doing one that is dedicated to aerospace in the same place. So we are trying to concentrate and to push not only on the research and development and training, but more and more on the technology transfer and on the support of the creation of new generation. One thing that I would say also, we do it this idea that the community make things. It's not an individual approach that will let us have a role. This is a proper word in a competition that is so strong, and it's a global competition, but we think that the way in which we behave together and cooperate as we have done in this region since 15 days with the university, enterprises and institutions is the right approach. That's why we have what we have already said, but we also have a great investment, consistent investment with Bretagne, where we 11 million euros we are going to reinforce the laboratories that we already done thanks to INAB and to Leonardo and to the flight, which are dedicated to the support, the experimentation, the development of product, let's say, but also services related to the new wave of mobility, the innovation and mobility. One of the words that I use and are related to how we will fly in the next future without manned airplane, but with unmanned solutions. And this is the approach, and this is the way in which we hope that there can be a follow-up from these two events. And just to say one thing, we hope this with the enthusiastic way in which we have also this year organized this event, as other that we do. And we can do it because we have young engineers that are part of our organizations that are really enthusiastic and passionate to do their job and to permit us, I would think to say here a speech, to say, I'm thinking that they have to thanks first of all them, and this happened 20 years ago. There was not a lot of what we have already. And the aim is to continue to consolidate capabilities, competencies, attract young engineers that can find good opportunities for their not only friendly and human improvement, but professional improvement. And your presence give a reason to us, give fuel to them. And I think after these 2 days, they will be more motivated and they will be more able to create the future of this region, in this sector, with the aim to give little contribution to the sector that moves with the global nation. We are not afraid to attract them. Thank you very much.
It's the moment of the institutional greetings and the introduction, and I invite to come on the stage Antonio Mattarelli, Presidente della provincia di Brindisi e Sindaco di Mesagne, prego.
Saluto i presenti, i relatori che interverranno e ringrazio gli organizzatori di questa prestigiosa iniziativa. Mesagne è onorata di accogliere la 4ª edizione del Global Space Economic Workshop. Ringrazio e saluto il dottor Giuseppe Acierno, Presidente del Distretto Tecnologico Aerospaziale. Il patrocinio per questo evento è un patrocinio convinto. Oltre che dalla città di Mesagne e dalla regione Puglia, l'evento è patrocinato dalla provincia di Brindisi, da un territorio che da oltre un secolo è sede di importanti realtà aerospaziali. Realtà che contribuiscono in modo significativo a far fronte alle nuove sfide industriali. Questa storia parte da lontano, almeno dal 1919, da quando il bacino del porto fungeva da base per gli idrovolanti da trasporto diretto verso i Balcani. La capacità manuale dei maestri d'ascia di allora ha conosciuto un'evoluzione che oggi assume nuove vesti attraverso le tante figure professionali impiegate nel settore aerospaziale pugliese. Ritengo che appuntamenti come questo, realizzato in questo contesto, rappresentino un'opportunità di grande valore per le comunità che li ospitano. Essi rappresentano un'occasione da apprezzare nelle sue molteplici espressioni. Intanto perché vede il territorio protagonista di sfide importanti. Si tratta delle stesse sfide lanciate nelle precedenti edizioni del Distretto Tecnologico Aerospaziale, insieme all'Agenzia Spaziale Italiana, qui rappresentata dal dottor Roberto Formaro, e dall'Agenzia Spaziale Europea, qui rappresentata dal dottor Luca Del Monte. Voglio salutare e ringraziare per essere qui. La nostra è una terra florida, per bellezze naturali e monumentali, ve ne accorgerete in questi 2 giorni, ma ricca anche di aspirazioni. ricca di competenze che si formano nelle università del territorio, ricca delle intelligenze dei giovani che dopo gli studi proseguono il loro percorso nelle aziende che scelgono di investire su di loro. Il talento di questi giovani contribuisce al progresso scientifico, culturale ed economico del Paese, dell'Europa e di un territorio che cresce e guarda al futuro. L'ambizione di questi 2 giorni è ben espressa nelle presenze che si registrano. Si tratta di presenze che ben rappresentano la sinergia che la caparbietà dei nostri giovani e la qualità delle nostre aziende produce, proiettando questo territorio in una dimensione che va oltre i confini geografici, territoriali e nazionali. Ci troviamo di fronte a una compagine che include istituzioni, mondo accademico, industria spaziale e non solo. Il collegamento che tiene insieme le diverse componenti è il desiderio di ulteriore crescita. Con questa consapevolezza e con questo spirito confermo la mia disponibilità istituzionale, limitatamente ovviamente alle mie possibilità, a supportare iniziative incentrate all'impiego della tecnologia. Nel caso specifico stiamo parlando in prevalenza di stampa 3D, impiegata per le attività aerospaziali, ma si comprende, si intuisce come tali attività siano anche riconducibili ad azioni che assumono una funzione determinante per lo sviluppo di più settori economici. Gli investimenti realizzati in questo settore assumono implicazioni industriali e produttive e dunque sociali, toccano tematiche di enorme rilevanza che confluiscono nelle scelte adottate dal nostro Paese in tema di strategie spaziali, come immagino avrà modo di illustrare il ministro Urso. I temi sono diversi, cruciali e trasversali, riguardano la sostenibilità ambientale, toccano le sfide globali e il futuro del pianeta, collegano tra loro molteplici aspetti, mettendo in relazione il complesso concetto di innovazione con il progresso umano. Lo spazio come opportunità di occupazione e crescita. La sintesi del workshop potrebbe essere questa, espressa un titolo che mi piace e che rivolgo a voi tutti come augurio di buon lavoro. Welcome in Mesagne and good stay.
Sindaco Matarelli. Now I would like to call on the stage Roberto Formaro, Director of Programs dell'Agenzia Spaziale Italiana.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here today and representing us. And I would like to thank the Distretto Spaziale Puglia and Giuseppe in particular who have invited me also for this year and accepted immediately the invitation. So I also would like to thank the Major of Design and the President of the province and for hosting us in this marvelous castle and this beautiful city. One point that is one connection between this middle-age castle and which has been reminded to us that it's middle age because we are in a middle age period for space. We know that middle age was a basket where a lot of innovation has been injected in the system, and this is what is happening. It's happening in space, and this is something that will bring us in a new renaissance, as we will see in the future programs of innovation. So, just 7 years ago, we made a workshop on this subject, additive manufacturing, and we had about 150 technical people very keen on the technology. And now, after the same year, we'll be another workshop on the same thing. units, we have 122 people. This is significant. At the time, everybody wanted to show that they have the best idea. They want to show that they are the solution for any problem, and mainly focused on structures, and so mega constellations were arising. Every day we heard about announcement about the new mega constellation, thousands of satellites, and the system integrator believed that additive manufacturing was one of the game changers, able enabling them to produce on a daily basis satellites. So that was the point of the time. So there were a lot of expectations. Now, after these years, many things have changed. We have understood a lot of things about additive manufacturing. And but in parallel, we have been invaded of a lot of new technologies in other sectors. So our technological context is totally changed in the last 5 years, and this comes back to the fact of the Middle Age. Why this is happening? There is a lot of injection of technologies from other sectors, a lot of contamination, cross-contamination, and at the end of the day, we are this technology are competing with the traditional technologies, and in many cases they are replacing those technologies. In fact, if we compare our roadmap for various space domains, we see that in some cases we cannot recognize that they are roadmap for the same sector. They're so different that there is a big difference in the key kind of technologies that we are using now to realize our space program. So it's amazing. I invite you to do this exercise. It's very amazing. So there is a big race in space. Everybody wants to be the first, and if you are the first in a sector, in one domain in space, you could be the leader. You could be the leader of a business domain, and everybody is fighting one each other. So this is a very amazing situation. So when I had to mention today about exploration, and you know that Italy is a leading country for exploration for Europe, and is recognized to be one of the leaders in exploration. We are building all the pressurized volume around the moon, which is lunar, for the GSEW station. We are realizing in a bilateral relation with NASA the multi-purpose habitat, which is the first in habitation module that will be placed on the moon. Just yesterday, the last meeting with them. And we will need a lot of new technology to inject, because we have delivered a lot of pressurized modules in the orbit. We are building what is orbiting around the moon, and we are going to make our modules on the moon. And there we will meet some advanced technologies in order to win all the challenges that those environments will give us. So this is very important. So when Giuseppe and Luca came to me and proposing this team I immediately welcomed the team, because it's so real in this moment. This is very effective, because we need to understand what is possible to do. A lot of work has been done. We as agency, we have a clear evidence of what is possible, but we need to share this information. We need to spread the knowledge of what we can do in space with additive and also with other technologies. So that is very important now to share, and this is the right moment to understand how we have changed our way to make space product and where we can go. So thank you for this invitation, and I wish you a pleasant and fruitful workshop. Thank you.
Thanks to the director Roberto Formaro for the last institutional greeting. I invite to come on the stage Luca Del Monte, Head of the Commercialization Department of ESA.
So, good morning everyone. It's a big honor to be here today, and I'm really proud and excited, and of course how can I thank good friend Giuseppe Acerno to have organized for the fourth time indeed this event here in Puglia, and of course also the mayor of Grottaglia, sorry, Mesaglia, of course, and president of the province, and all of you for being here. Now, why I'm so proud? First of all, I arrived not yesterday, but already on Sunday, last Sunday. Why? Because Puglia this week is at the center of space in Europe, and today this is the culmination of a series of events that has taken place this week in Puglia. So let's say GSEW is really, I would say, the culmination, the apex of this, and for a good reason that I would like to explain to you. Our new vision on commercialization in Europe is based on three pillars, and all these three pillars are materialized in Puglia this week. I mean, these three pillars, always have to have a base that is 3 times, 4 times, 2 times. This one, we mutuated this from Jeff Bezos, who says what the ingredients for a successful company. Says there are 3 ingredients, and this is talent, money, and patience. Well, in our case, patience is over because we are really late. So, talent, money, and speed. Now, let me explain to you why these 3 components, 3 ingredients, were really materialized at the best here in the Apulia region this week. We started this week in Bari with the space commercialization course held at Politecnico di Bari. Now, this is the first ever type of this course at the doctoral level, doctoral school level in Europe. Talent. We are focusing on new talents. This is our obsession at ESA, because we know how difficult for new companies to find new engineers, new scientists, how difficult it is to attract a new generation towards STEM. So with this course, we are trying to bring as much knowledge about the evolved context of space to the new generation, and to attract students and the future entrepreneurs possibly to this sector that is really living an exciting moment, as Roberto was saying. Maybe the Middle Age, maybe we're moving from the Middle Age to the Renaissance. I don't know, maybe. The second point is money, and after or during the space commercialization course, we have also held the first spring school of GSEW. The president of GSEW today is here with us, Professor Vito Albino, and GSEW, those of you who don't know yet, is the European Center for Space, Economy and Commerce. So the second pillar, money. And indeed, this was the first time that we had an event, the so-called spring schools, where we managed to bring together something like 50 practitioners from all over Europe, including from academia, from the world of industry, the world of institutions, investors as well. So we had the European Investment Fund joining us, the European Commission as well. So, and discussing about the future opportunities that are offered by the space economy to potential investors. So, let's say we really focus on the question of funding, of private funding. And the last part is the GSEW, speed. Why, for me, this is really, I am very close with my heart to this event, because this is a very special one. It's not, please keep this in mind, this is not the traditional conference where you go, you exchange some ideas, you come out with a little bit more knowledge, some business card in your wallet. Certainly yes, and even more. I think this is one of the best organized events in space in Europe. But there is something more, and this is the concrete outcome of these events is always been something solid, a contract, an activity, a new initiative. So, of course, it's something that it is not improvised, as you can imagine. There is a very hard work for preparation of that, and for this I really pay tribute again to Ditya and organization and Giuseppe in this case, that we have always a track record of success to be quick and to quickly deliver an outcome, a concrete outcome. In the past, we organized these events in this format all over Europe. The first one, yes, was organized here, but then we had many others in different countries on different topics, ranging from material, energy, biotech. Here in Puglia, we had cybersecurity, we had drones, and today we have additive manufacturers. At the end of each of these events, we had always a contract activity, an initiative, something that has been launched. And in this case, also, we do expect a concrete outcome, of course. We will make also some reflections about how to build up the new generation of space entrepreneurs here in this region. So we will discuss also about the opportunity on business incubation, of course, and we will also announce some interesting challenges for the future that will be open, I think, tomorrow. So, having said that, I won't steal you more time and wish you an excellent 2 days of work. Thanks a lot to everyone.
It's the moment of the first keynote speech of the morning. The keynote speech is about additive manufacturing as enabling technology for the new space economy, application, challenge, and the future perspective. I call here Marco Grasso, assistant professor del Politecnico di Milano.
During my speech, I will try to give a quick highlight about the study that we carried out together with Professor Colosimo from the Department of Mechanics from ISA Estec. The study is about the current state of the art on additive manufacturing as a key enabling technology for the new space economy. Let me say that this study was made possible thanks to the support of the framework agreement between the Italian Space Agency and Politecnico di Milano, and thanks to the IM Space project funded by ESA. So, talking about the new space economy, there are many studies, many recent studies that are forecasting the future impact and the current and future impact of this economy. They differ in terms of the actual numbers, but they all agree on the order of magnitude. And the order of magnitude is a global worldwide revenue forecasted by 2040 of over $1 trillion. And all these studies point out that additive manufacturing has a key role as an enabling technology for all the main domains of the new space economy. So, Earth observation, satellite navigation, communication, access to space, space exploration, and so on. In these last years, we have seen additive manufacturing moving from prototyping to the production of functional parts, moving from secondary to primary to mission-critical components, thanks to the many benefits enabled by this technology. But nowadays, the new space economy is reshaping the space sector, and also new drivers are coming into the picture. So new actors, new young companies are entering the market. This is pushing a greater competition, but also a greater interest towards more economically sustainable solutions. And this is pushing a higher attention also to lead time, to the reduction of costs. So if we look at the space domain and the main drivers for additive manufacturing, we don't have just technical, technological drivers, but also economical ones. And space sector is facing some new drivers, new requirements that were not common to space some years ago. For example, we were talking about mega constellations, that is
pushing production from one-of-a-kind small lots to large serious production. And in this field, additive manufacturing has been adopted and is studied for many different applications, from structural components, thermal management components, propulsion, telecommunication, electronics, instruments, payloads, and so on. One sector that is gaining a huge momentum is also the launch sector, where a lot of new companies, but also more established companies and space agencies, are investing in additive manufacturing to leverage on the benefits of this technology for a new generation of launching systems. I'm pretty sure that during today and during these 2 days we will see a lot of exciting and very interesting solutions and applications within all this kind of range of applications. But let me just mention that we have a wide range of solutions in terms of technologies and materials with different maturity levels. So starting from, for example, powder bed fusion of aluminum and titanium alloys, where we also have some flight heritage components with flight heritage already. But as you see, there is a plenty of opportunities in terms of new processes, new materials, new alloys, where huge research and development efforts are needed. For example, talking about multi-materials, talking about functionally graded materials. As we are facing new drivers, but also new opportunities and challenges, talking about the use of additive manufacturing on Earth for the production of space components, qualification is one important field where many new challenges are arising. There are new standards that regulate that field, and many new standards are also coming up. But the space sector has to face the same challenges that other sectors are facing. So the new complexity of the products, the new kinds of materials that we are using, are pushing the need for new qualification approaches. There is a lack of statistical process control, process monitoring techniques for this kind of completely new and 3D shapes, but also a need for more efficient qualification approaches. But this is also where some opportunities provided by additive manufacturing comes into the picture, because thanks to the layer-wise paradigm, we can see with eyes, with sensors, what's going on in every single layer. We can take measurements of the process of the part, layer by layer, and we can use this in combination with brains, so eyes and brains, to anticipate the detection of anomalies, defects, to anticipate qualification during the process instead of waiting for the parts to be ready. And here you can see some examples of the kind of very high variety of information that we can gather during the process, acquiring images of the solidified layer, acquiring information through thermal videos and different kinds of sensors about the complex dynamics that are occurring during the process. And we can leverage on this big data, real-time data, to develop new qualification solutions. And this is also where core research from my research group is focused. But additive manufacturing is not limited to the production on Earth of parts that will fly in space, but also there are many exciting fields for the use of additive manufacturing in space, and or on Moon, Mars, and on celestial bodies. So here we have to face the challenges of additive manufacturing in microgravity conditions, or the use of in situ resources to design and to exploit the actual additive manufacturing potentials for the long-term permanence of humans on Mars. And also in that field, there are a lot of exciting results, but a huge amount of open questions for research. So just to conclude and to summarize, we have in front of us challenges,
opportunities, and maybe we can try to figure out what can be the next frontiers where more research and development efforts can be focused on. For example, we need a more integrated and efficient process flow, thinking about not just design for additive manufacturing, but design for additive manufacturing and post-processing, because additive manufacturing never goes alone, it's part of a production chain. For example, new efficient qualification methodologies, as I said, where artificial intelligence can be a key enabling technology together with additive manufacturing for a new generation of smart additive manufacturing systems. But we have also challenges and opportunities related to new materials, new alloys, new processes on Earth or space and on planet. And last but not least, also 3D bioprinting, that is the 3D printing of biological tissues. Thanks to recent ESA programs, but also programs from a lot of research groups in the world, printing biological tissues is a reality. It's no more science fiction. But still, there is a long path to go to cover and to answer many questions, many research questions, and to bring this capability into actual the development of new space programs. So I would stop here. I'm pretty sure that we will see a lot of examples, a lot of new solutions in these days about all this kind of stuff, not just for space, but also for aerospace in general. And if you are curious about what we are doing as Politecnico di Milano in that direction, I will be happy to get in contact with you. And I thank you for your attention.
Now I see in the side a warm welcome to Mr. Nicola Zaccheu, President of Italian Transport Regulation Authority. And now it's the moment of the second keynote speech about research, innovation and technology for the sustainable competitiveness of the space ecosystem. I call here Roberto Morabito, Director of Department for Sustainability of Enea.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And first of all, let me thank the organizer of this workshop, in particular President Acerno, for the kind invitation to Enea to give a speech on research, innovation, and space economy. Okay, I would say that almost by definition, space means innovation, and since the beginning, almost by definition, space innovation has meant benefits for the quality of life of everybody of us, practically in all the sectors of our society, from health and medicine and public safety to transportation and ICT, from environment, energy to consumer goods and industrial production. And still today, the highest concentration of patents are found in areas where aerospace clusters are located. And this is practically true almost everywhere, from USA to Japan, from France to Korea. Oh, sorry. In Enea, research and development of innovation more or less during the 80s of the last year, when Enea enlarged its core teams beyond the nuclear and energy research. But of course, at the beginning, by exploiting this kind of expertise and facilities, and then applying to the space research large irradiation facilities, performing studies on energy systems for propulsion, exploiting the high expertise on innovative high-performance materials to develop methods for test materials and analysis, and later on exploiting also monitoring, satellite monitoring data for environmental studies and application, and finally also applying biotechnologies, in particular to the nutrition, to the sector of the nutrition in space. So in these 30 years, we got a considerable number of projects. And let me mention just as an example the L'Aerospazio project that actually is rather a cluster of projects that Lazio region recently financed to a public-private consortium led by Enea that contributed particularly in the projects that you see in the left-hand side of the slide, and dealing with development of additive manufacturing for production of aerospace components, with the protection of people, materials, and equipment in space from cosmic radiation, or with a realization of demonstrator for hydroponic cultivation of plants in space. So just a very quick examples of these three topics. The first, exploiting additive manufacturing to realize multi-component materials in order to exploit the mechanical and thermic resistance to high temperature and to radiation of metals. In this case, we are talking about joining different metals, and so to exploit these characteristics of stainless steel or nickel and its alloys, and the characteristic of a good heat dissipation capacity of copper and its alloys, and are all examples of dual application. These can be useful for space engines, but can be exploited also in extreme environment, like those generated, the very high temperature generated by fusion energy. Doesn't work. Oh, sorry. The second example, well, it's quite relevant to protect aircrafts and humans from cosmic radiation, and in this case, the shielding system is based on a tungsten loaded on a polymer matrix, coupling the high shielding properties of heavy metals and the flexibility of the polymer matrix for the realization of flexible multi-layers radiation shield to protect human in the space, certainly from cosmic radiation, but also to be exploited on Earth during radiation medical therapy, or to shield devices like electronic devices, microcircuits, and so on. We listened this morning, probably in the near future, we will see the beginning of the presence of a human life in the space, first on Moon, then on Mars. But for doing that, of course, we need comfortable, let me say, comfortable environment. But we need also a wealth of resources like food, water, oxygen, and why not also medicals. So this is the aim of the so-called bioregenerative systems to support the long-term human life in the space. In these systems, plants play a key role on one side for the production of food, of fresh food, certainly much better than freeze-dried food, but also to produce medicals like vitamins or antioxidants. This is, you can see, a typical space module for hydroponic cultivation of plants in space. And of course, considering the closing system of the space station, well, it's absolutely crucial that these systems, these bioregenerative systems must be also circular. Well, also in this case, is evident the dual use. We know that according to the last scenarios, very soon, 2050, we will be on Earth almost 10 billion of people. And this means an increasing demand of food, and considering also the contemporary limitation of cultivation land, this means that we have to move. We already are moving from the traditional agriculture also to the so-called precision agriculture or smart agriculture. So we have to move from the cultivation of square meter to the cultivation of cubic meter, from horizontal cultivation to vertical cultivation, and we know that the vertical farm will be always more popular, even directly in supermarket. But this means probably that that modules that you have seen probably will be popular in our house. So to move from hot space to home garden. So going to the last slide of this speech, we know, and we already listened, that private investments are really growing up a lot, are really increasing at a rate much faster than public investment. Of course, public investment is still one order of magnitude higher than private investment, but private investment are growing a lot. Mainly, private investment are focusing on satellite launches to get monitoring data, for instance, for climate change and things like that. Of course, for telecoms, but also for transportation of goods and the humans in the space. But this, as a result of this growth, we assist that in the last decade, in the last 10 years, the number of objects launched in the space is increased one order of magnitude. And it is been estimated that very soon we will have that 70,000 satellites will enter in the orbit. And this risks to be really unsustainable. This risk to transform space in a landfill, or better, in a space field, if you want. And this is also the reason, because one of the key themes of the near future is the management of orbital debris, with dedicated satellite launches. On one side, of course, to clean up as much as possible this debris. But on the other side, I think that we have to start to consider the large quantity of raw materials, and in particular of critical raw materials in debris into the space. We know that critical raw materials is one of the hot topics at global level, is at the top of the agenda of governments at the global level. And for this, we know that we are moving always more from mining to urban mining. So probably tomorrow we will move also to space mining. But this probably is a far tomorrow. But today, the growth of private investment in a certain way is changing the traditional rush to space from an economy, a governmental controlled economy, or let me say also controlled by military, to a new open space economy. But for the reason that you see in this slide and what you have seen in the previous slide, this new space economy shall necessarily be sustainable. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks to Roberto Moravito, Director Roberto Moravito. It's the moment of institutional panel, finding a common ground between cooperation and competition in the global space arena. The moderator isn't with us, but is with us with the streaming. Is Marcello Spagnuolo, the scientific board member of Limes Geopolitical Review. And I call here Giovanni Colangelo, Inspector General of ESA, Augusto Cramarossa, Head of Strategic Area Coordination in the Space Economy Unit of ASI, Luisa Riccardi, Director of the Department of Technological Innovation, Secretariat General of Defense, Carolina Muti, Senior Research Fellow, Security and Defense, l'Istituto Affari Internazionali. Prego. Prego, Marcello.
Buongiorno, mi sentite? So, good morning everyone. I would like to thank Giuseppe Acerno and the Distretto Pugliese for inviting me. I'm very sad not to be there in presence, but the post-COVID consequences prevented me to be there in presence. But anyway, we will try this premiere in moderating a panel with the distinguished panelists online with this remote manner. So the panelists have been already presented, so I don't want to take much time before their discussions. The panel is a more political panel because it's finding a common ground between cooperation and competition in a global space arena. And the very last slides of the previous panelists have shown us a snapshot of one side of the problem, the orbital debris. So I will really briefly introduce this panel, getting the idea of these slides and getting the idea from the actuality, because very few days ago we had a summit in Japan with the G7, and for the first time in the communiqué de presse of the G7, they have explicitly mentioned space, and in particular two themes of space, as a point in agenda of the summit. They have pointed out the importance not to do destructive operations in space, which can provoke debris. So they have, the G7 leaders, they have pointed out the importance to not perform aggressive operation in space in order to have a sustainable space. And this is quite important. It gives me the possibility to introduce the discussion of the distinguished panelists, because space exploration is something which now goes far beyond the provision of essential services for the functioning of our society, of our economy, also enabling military operation. Is getting more and more a geopolitical issue in a realistic sense. But there are people, a lot of people, who says that our future, mankind future, will depend on space exploration. The past scientist Stephen Hawking was used to saying that we have to migrate in other planets, and the same things says Elon Musk, which is a benchmark in private entrepreneurs of space. So the belief is that the medium-long term, thanks to the use of rare materials available on other celestial bodies, we will establish robotic sites managed by artificial intelligence, robots, or even men, for industrial energy production. And this is something which additive material technologies is an enabler in a sense. So this possibility to acquire resources necessary for a sustainable economic growth in the future is something which is entering in this agenda. I would like to ask to our distinguished panelists, and I will start first from the representative of the agencies, to give us their evaluation and their perspective on this maybe long-term perspective. Mr. Colangelo, to you the floor. Sorry, just to start, because we have 4 questions, we are 4 panelists, each question should last 3 to 4 minutes, so it's not very long, but I know you are aware of that. Sorry, Mr. Colangelo, after you.
Now it should work. I hope it works. So good morning everyone, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. It's a very long question, but I think that the subject is really very interesting. We have to admit that the future in space is exploration, but explorations without the proper access to space cannot be done. So the two things goes together. So it is exploration plus availability of economically, let's say, cheap launchers, because that is exactly what Europe and what the world needs. So we have also to admit that in the last periods, Europe has not done much for the explorations. Now we are in a new era, we have the possibility to change, and we are really at the top of that. As I think that Roberto introduced, we are the renaissance of the exploration, and that is the moment where Europe has to decide which kind of role they wish to play. So they can be spectators, they can be customers, or we can be leaders. It's as simple as that. Yes, we can do it if we wish. Exploration again is important because it's not only, let's say, goes space mining or colonization, but goes well behind. And in order to be, let's say, sustainable this kind of a model for exploration, it's extremely important that we meet 3 main objectives, especially for the citizens. So first of all, it is the prestige. Second one is prosperity. And third one is security. If we do play these 3 subjects together for our citizens, exploration will be really the key driver for that. I don't want to remind that we in the ESA we are discussing about the possibility to have inspirators. Inspirators is a new way to make exploration. So we don't want to do what things have been done in the past, where they are very expensive. We would like to do something that is commercially available, commercially feasible. Something that change totally the rule of the game. It is clear in order to do that, you need to have the right people, you need to have the right time, the right pace, therefore the speed. And the third one, we have to change totally the approach we went to the fields.
I think that we can discuss really for the rest of the day, but I would like to give the floor to to the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Colangelo. I get your interesting point of getting into space because it's something extremely important. I know that the European Space Agency is working on this topic of getting human into space for the benefit and the security of Europe. And so I'm very glad to pass the floor to Augusto Gramarosa. We have worked together many years ago on the access to space issue. So, Augusto, please.
Spero, non so se mi sentite. It's working. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marcello. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we work together. We also shared our years in the university in Rome, so our friendship is very long in time. Now, I would like to start, having heard what has been said by Isa, Inspector General, I would like to refer to Marcello to what we said about Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk. I mean, that humankind depends on the ability to explore space and colonize other worlds. I would like to say, first of all, I would like to make an intervention that is more general, because access to space has been already mentioned in the previous intervention. So I would like to say that our planet Earth is our spaceship. We have only this environment, so we have to take care of this environment, and sustainability of our planet, and also sustainability of space activities from a certain point of view, a very important issue that we have to take into consideration. The Italian activities in exploration have been already very well illustrated by Roberto Formaro, who is the director of program in the Italian Space Agency, so I would like to avoid to repeat what has been said by him. But what can we say, according to the introduction made by Marcello, is that I would like to be more general. Space activity and also space exploration clearly provide huge benefit for our society. We can say that we have a direct and indirect benefit. And about space exploration, I would like to say something regarding the fact that at least in Italy, sometimes we say that sometimes the trip itself could be more important than the final destination. So we have to enjoy the trip, and the space exploration, from a certain point of view, can be considered a trip. And if we enjoy the trip, this means that we will receive all the benefit of the technology development and of innovation that has to be used in order to allow the possibility of having the trip. And once the trip is done, we will have for sure very huge benefit in terms of a spin-off coming from space exploration and also technology transfer, clearly. So I can mention, for example, what has been achieved with the Apollo mission in the 6 years, and also through ISS. So we had a very new project management schemes and methods and procedures, and also very large spin-off in other domains, for example, medical, pharmaceutical, and aeronautics. So what I would like to put in evidence is that exploration for sure has already provided us with a lot of new scientific knowledge and with a huge return in terms of technology. And finally, regarding the also rare materials, I think that this is a new frontier. We have already done something in this perspective with the Rosetta mission, with the DART mission, where we had a very important involvement of Italy, of Italian firms. And so for sure we can say that space exploration is the frontier of our life, and from a certain point of view we have to take into account that space exploration will allow us maybe to have another spaceship. Okay,
thank you. Thank you, Augusto. Very inspiring intervention. Thank you very much. Dottoressa Riccardi, you are director of the Department of Technology Innovation within the Ministry of Defense, and we need to have the Ministry of Defense more and more involved in space exploration because of all the issue of security and defense. Which are your perspective about this item?
First of all, let me thank you, Giuseppe, for inviting me. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be part of this panel. Talking about my point of view is my professional point of view. As you said, I'm the director of the innovation department of the Italian MOD. So a different experience in space domain. Basically, for me, space is a domain. So foresee and to predict the exact future of space exploration and its implication for humankind, it's really hard, especially if we consider the turmoil geopolitical situation. And we learn that priorities for nation can change suddenly. And for that reason, taking into account how important is collaboration, the geopolitical situation and the priorities for nation can change the balance between cooperation and competition. Sadly, in the past few years, my experience was that we were moving fast toward cooperation. In space, we do not need to explain that these are dual technologies. These are dual by nature. So it was easier to collaborate. And I saw in my professional experience moving faster from G2G agreement to military-civilian agreement, international agreement. But suddenly, the geopolitical situation changed the global framework. And we know how important it is in terms of complexity and also costs, cooperation in this sector. And for this reason, I think that organizations like the European Space Agency are so important because they could guarantee stable and prosperous cooperation. It doesn't matter what is going on around us. And also, organizations like the Italian Space Agency continually can guarantee cooperation between military and civilian space activities.
Thank you. Thank you, Dottoressa Riccardi. It's very interesting what you are saying. Dottoressa Muti, you are a Senior Research Fellow of Security and Defense at the Istituto Affari Internazionali, which is a very well-known and distinguished think tank, we could say. Yeah? So you have a more analytical view. Which is your perspective with respect to these prospects of space exploration?
Thank you very much. Let me first thank as well the organizers for inviting me. I'm deeply honored to be here as well. And let me start by saying that I really like the metaphor of the current moment that we are living in space exploration is similar to Middle Age and the Renaissance in terms of a dynamic environment characterized by innovation. But I think that it is similar to the Middle Age and the Renaissance also in another aspect. That is the high level of competition, as was already said by precedent speakers. If you remember, in Italy, in the Renaissance, we had a situation where città-stato were competing between each other, so these city-states, and it was a very fragmented governance and highly competitive, as I already said. So I think that we are in a similar situation in this moment, also in the space exploration. We have new actors, we have a very rapidly changing environment. We have big security concerns, of course, but technological progress is rushing and is bringing us to land the first woman and the next man on the moon in the framework of Artemis. So it is in an irreversible progress, I would say, that humankind dependency and the future of humankind being in space. I think it's something that if we see at the dependence of our societies on space, it will be actually irreversible. But what is interesting to see is not if we will get there. It is already clear that we will get there, but how we will get there and who will lead this process. And this, of course, brings in the topic of how we want to regulate space and space exploration, what governance should governments and private institutions give itself to rule this process. And as my experience is mostly in security and defense, let me say, for example, that recently the European Union published a new space strategy for security and defense, where it mentions that it will respond to space threats and will protect space assets, European space assets in space. But so this is a document published in March, but of course some open questions remains here. For example, how operationally to guarantee this protection of European assets in space and responding to space threats. So I will stop here for the moment.
Thank you, Dottoressa Muti. It's very interesting your consideration of the comparison between the present status and the Moyen Age città-stato. It's very interesting. I will get back on that. And also you have anticipated a couple of issues which will be matter of the next questions, in fact. You have mentioned how we will go into space and who will drive this space race. And so the next question for all of you is more political. The next two questions will be more political. So we have to be realistic and know that space exploration now we have a few top players, which are United States, Russia, and China, and then they are followed by European Union, India, Japan. There are other countries which does not have currently comparable space-faring capacity, but they are trying to acquire. So, in your opinion, also analyzing how they behave in the relationships, do you see elements of awareness of the importance of collaboration to overcome the current and future challenges of the future of humankind? I will start as the same round before with Dr. Colangelo.
We also protect the China as the are new global space short of express space
Sorry, now it works. So, sorry for that. I mean, it happens, but so this is totally normal. And the competition that these two big countries, they are really, now they are really competing, are mainly on launchers, mainly on the broadband internet from space and these mega constellations. I wanted to even remind to everyone that, I mean, we don't have to forget what Starlink has done during these 1.5 years. And I mean, what OneWeb was not able to do because of the lack of inter-satellite link, which is exactly the basis of Starlink. So this type of, let's say, space race now, or this kind of situation that you're talking about, has changed totally the environment. So before we talk cooperation would be junior partner or partnership, whatever. Today, we don't talk anymore about cooperation, but we talk really about competition. So we have to decide where Europe should stay. If we want to compete, or we want to talk to be a junior partner with other, let's say, major space firing powers. In my personal opinion is that, I mean, we as Europe, we need really to open up our doors to everyone, especially in 2021, at least Latin American Space Agency was created. I mean, it is not big, but it can have a lot of potential to grow. We should really work with them. We should work with the Arab Emirates Space Agency. We should work with Brazil. We should work with India. I think that the Europe can be really the leader of these kinds of countries, because if we try to compete with China, with the United States, we miserably fail because we don't have this economic power that because for them is colonization, is exploration, whatever you want to call it, is a matter of prestige. And I mean, de facto, they are doing in space what they cannot do on the ground. Sorry if I say so. Thank
you, Mr. Colangelo. Very shareable your consideration. Before giving the floor to Augusto, I would like to ask the organizer to adjust the microphone of Mr. Colangelo, because it's quite difficult for me to get these words. Augusto, can you follow this consideration of Mr. Colangelo, which are absolutely shareable? What do you say?
Yes, thank you, Marcello. I hope that you can hear me clear.
Yes,
loud.
yes.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Okay, the main problem is here, I think, collaboration, cooperation versus competition. So this is something that we are always facing in Europe and also worldwide level. So what I can mention, I will try to be short, but what we have today, we have a number, quite limited number of international agreements and conventions. I would like to mention the Outer Space Treaty, the Rescue Agreement, the Moon Agreement, the Liability Convention, and the Registration Convention. So this is what we have today, what has been approved by some countries, not all the countries. There are rules that are followed, that are yes, put in place according to a voluntary basis. What else we have? We had in the past the agreement for ISS that worked very well with ESA, that was representing Europe in that case. At national level, we also had an agreement not only through ESA but also at bilateral level with NASA that was very, very important in terms of return for Italy and would like to mention this because it was really something useful for the Italian space community. So we had the ISS agreement that, from a certain point of view, could be considered a precursor of other agreements. Now we have the Artemis Accord, and Italy was one of the first European country that signed the agreement. And now, which is the situation? Are these agreements enough to cover all the new activities that now are included in the space scenario? If we take into account, I don't know, space mining, or also the mega constellation, we think, this is not my personal opinion, there are a lot of work that are ongoing in order to verify how other agreement could be discussed and signed at worldwide level. So this is a very important matter because today the acceleration that we had in the space domain was faster than what was already foreseen in the past. Then I would like to spend few words, Marcello, if you allow me, on the situation in Europe. In Europe, we have the European Space Agency, but also European Union, that through the European Commission and now the new agency, EUSPA, are also taking a very important role in the space in Europe. Regarding exploration is something that is managed uniquely by the European Space Agency, while the European Commission, European Union, as of today, doesn't want to take any to start with new development programs. So this is something that we Italy is considering, and again, bilateral level with NASA and also through the European Space Agency. So if we talk again about cooperation and competition, what are we doing in Europe? In Europe, you know that we have Galileo, IRIS², SSC initiative, and also access to space that was mentioned before. So Europe, from a certain point of view, is trying to have its own independence, its own autonomy, and this means, from a certain point of view, that is moving toward a sort. I would like not to say that it's a competition, but for sure it is something quite different with respect to the past. Europe doesn't want to be dependent on other space-faring nation. And so we are building these new capacities and new initiatives. And I would like to mention also, and this is the last point, Marcello, what is happening, for example, in access to space that was mentioned by Colangelo several times. In Europe, for example, we had a very, very good cooperation in access to space through Arianespace, through Vega and Ariane. So a very long-lasting cooperation. Now something is changing because also in ESA we have now new actors, new mini and micro launchers that are mainly developed by private, mainly in Germany and in Spain. So again, also in Europe we had a very, very good cooperation. Now is moving toward the competition. So this is really an issue at European level and also at worldwide level. So we will continue to discuss as an institution through our government in the European fora in order to try. Clearly, the cooperation is the target for countries.
Augusto, I thank you very much. It's very, very interesting because you opened the window of a potential new panel on competition and cooperation inside the European Union. I will put clearly in that. It's very interesting point because you have mentioned some issues like this access to space. We have no time to discuss about that, but it's important because you have also give to the audience the idea that there is a sort of, I would not say competition, cooperation, I would say rebalancing of powers inside the European Union. But let's go back to our previous question and listen to Dottoressa Riccardi's opinion on these elements of potential awareness of collaboration. Dottoressa, it's up to you.
Yes. I don't want to repeat what was already said. Competition and cooperation. But you know, the balance between cooperation and competition can change, as I said, taking into account the geostrategical situation, and can change, as I said, priorities of nations. But also, you know, this balance can change, and can change the balance between military and civilian interest in space. And so, you know, one can, you know, explode, and another, you know, can just break. So it depends. But again, from my personal experience, there are two keywords that always can build a common ground for competition, for collaboration. It doesn't matter how strong is competition. And the two keywords are research and space, talking about technologies. You know, space is always, and research in space particularly, is always a good common ground to build cooperation. Because it's easier than, you know, build capabilities. Research is always useful to build trust, to share knowledge, and to define a common framework to share knowledge. So research programs always are useful to build common trust, to permit people to know each other. So let's talk about competition, but do not forget cooperation, especially cooperation on space. That is, as I said, human by nature.
Thank you, Dottoressa Riccardi. I get your point on the fact that you mentioned research as an element of enlarging the cooperation, so not only an element of enabling technology superiority, but also to share cooperation. This is quite very, very important. Really, I would like to listen from Dottoressa Muti the point of view of an analyst on this awareness of importance of collaboration. Dottoressa Muti.
Thank you. Yes, I will start with competition, and then I will get to a few points on cooperation. So I really agree with what Giovanni Colangelo said before about US and China doing in space what they are not able to do on Earth. In fact, the competition that we see and the geopolitical tension that we see growing at the international level on Earth have an extension in space, even in space exploration. That is a matter of with a very important cooperative component. Also, basically, it's a cooperation. But we see that some space powers are using space exploration as a projection of influence as well. So it is interesting to see how it will evolve. On a more positive note, on cooperation, we see that states are continuing on cooperating along traditional alliances lines. So in Artemis we see more. Oh, sorry. Could you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, now it's
much better.
It's my turn. Sorry for that. So we see that allies on Earth are also somehow allies in space. We see that in Artemis we have mostly so-called Western partners, Japan is part of that, and we see, of course, the difficulties with China and Russia, and in trying to have a common framework for cooperation with its partners. Just think about the ISS example that ISS was mentioned before. If you think that in '93, a few years after the end of the Cold War, Russia was invited to join ISS, and now when we talk about the extension of ISS till 2030, Russia already said that it will withdraw in 2024. So it gives us a strong sign on how cooperation is very difficult with non-traditional allies, let's say, with competitors. And I will just last point on cooperation for Italy. I think Italy should had a strong potential also to cooperate more with partners in the Mediterranean area and to bring the space cooperation element inside its foreign policy more. The whole country has interest in Mediterranean, and I think that space can reach and develop more partnerships with countries from who we depend on, for example, for energy. So I think that this is maybe an unexplored or less explored area for cooperation for Italy in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottoressa Muti. It's very interesting, and I get your point on the established alliance space are in a turmoil situation right now. To jump into the next question, which also recalls what I said in the introduction on the G7 communique. So, having said that the collaboration and competition are quite difficult, what are, in your opinion, the main challenges to preserve or increase security, cooperation in space exploration, and what could be, geopolitical and security strategy terms, the most effective solution to get into these objectives in the light of orbital congestion, military economic competition, all we have set up to now? Dr. Colangelo.
I have the solution.
Very well.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, very well.
Thank you again, Dr. Spagnuolo. This is again another question that is quite a long one, but very interesting and very well connected with the previous one. I think that we discussed, you request about the challenges we discussed before about these geopolitical issues that, cannot be forgotten. Then we discuss about the competition and also economic growth, because the things goes together. And then we need to introduce a third element, which is the inspirational part of science and technologies. So there is not magic in that. A strategy, which is a strategy really to compete in the world with this kind of, let's say, issues. For me, there is always the famous 5 pillars theory. This is true for space, this is true for exploration, this is true for everything. So we need to have a proper governance, European-wise. I think that Augusto introduced and Dr. Riccardo introduced about the European competition between ESA and between EU, and whatever. Again, we are European. I think that we have to be complementary. We don't need to compete. So that's why proper governance must be in place. Then the second point, which is extremely important, is to have resources. Resources can be of any nature, not only economical one, not only funds, but also, proper industries. With the right competencies, with everything. And I think that here we should really do something. And if here we are in this fabulous location, is really also to open up to the possibility that to invite people to put more resources into the space, which is extremely important. The third one for the strategy is the processes. we must have a processes. We cannot forget that, I mean, if we don't have proper process at hand, yes, we go ahead, but we are amateur. We will fail. I mean, the challenges are so many in front of us that we need to be properly handled. The fourth one, which is exactly what I say, is the key of everyone, is to have competencies. Thank you, Dr. Riccardi. I mean, you introduced this point, but this is competence in Europe. We have a lot of talents, but we need not only to, let's say, discover the talents, but we need to allow the growth of the talents. I mean, that this is quite an important one. I keep hearing, but we need to acquire, we need to acquire. Yes, it's true, we need to acquire. We need to form, we need to acquire, we need to really offer them whatever we can, but we also need to offer them the possibility of growth. And that is, for me, is the key, because I mean, Europe in this kind of endeavor, in this kind of scenario, is really has a lot of competencies. You cannot imagine how good are our engineers, how good are the Italian engineers, by the way, European-wise and also worldwide. I think that is important. The fifth one, it is mindset. We all have to work together for a common objective if we want really to sustain this kind of space race. I would like only to remind one thing about the possibility of how important are the competence, because I mean, we don't have to forget that in any industries, if we have a perfect organization with people that are not competent, I mean, this organization, this firm will fail. If you have a bad organization with a very good people, so the quality is very high, whatever it happens, I mean, you are successful. I think that this is the type of things that I would like to express. I mean, I would like to share with you. That is important. It is clear that, I mean, these 5 pillars have to be there in order to establish a proper and sustainable business model. This is only possible, again, I repeat, if we work in cooperation, in proper competition, we really see all the challenges and we try to overcome them together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Colangelo. We get about your 5 points, and I leave the floor to Augusto for getting into this question.
Okay, thank you, Marcello. This is a quite interesting question. Quite difficult to have to provide you with an answer. What we can say is that clearly, with the Russian aggression to Ukraine, something has drastically changed the scenario. This is something that we have to take into account. The postponement of the launch of ExoMars has been already mentioned by Colangelo. So we had very severe consequences also at European level. So how can we, which are the challenges and how can we preserve the cooperation is very difficult to provide a unique answer. So I mentioned the agreement that are already in place, and as I said before, maybe we should continue to work in order to have additional agreement that could cover the current gaps that we still have. First of all, we have to rebuild the mutual trust among all the international partners. As Colangelo said before, Russia would like to abandon the ISS, maybe to start with the construction of a new purely national space station. So again, at European level, what we have in terms of security, we had the European Union strategic thing that to avoid to solve the current problem. The governance was mentioned before. I would like to say something on this. The Lisbon Treaty is very clear. The responsibility attributed to European Union and the responsibility that are remaining to the member states are very clear, at least for space. Discussions are ongoing because, as probably you know, Commissioner Breton has announced that he would like to propose a new European Union law for space that, from a certain point of view, is not allowed by Article 189 of the Lisbon Treaty. So also in this case, discussions are ongoing take into account other articles regarding the internal market. So we are discussing this possibility, in particular, a European law that could be could take into account some issues related to SST, space traffic management, and so on which we need to have a common view, a common standard.
Sorry for this. Yes, because we are also almost ready for the connection with the ministry. So I would like to ask, try to be in time, otherwise our program won't be completed. Thank you.
So, okay, thank you. Okay, I can finish this with this. So maybe I know that already some discussion are ongoing in order to verify how can the Lisbon Treaty could be increased, and I would like to finish with. I'm proud to say that Isa has said that in Europe we have a lot of competencies and skills. I would like to say that in Italy we have all the competencies and skills in all the space sector domain. So I'd like to mention this because I think that all of us we should be proud of what has been done in Italy in the last decade, thanks to the governmental support.
Thank you, Augusto. I think that your intervention has opened a lot of windows, but we have to leave the floor to Dottoressa Riccardi and then Dottoressa Muti. Dottoressa Riccardi, please.
Yes, thank you. To be short, I will jump immediately to my conclusion. Basically, all the challenges and all the possible solutions were already set by colleagues. So, in conclusion, what I listed as a main solution, possible, feasible solution, is for sure international cooperation to preserve security, cooperation, and stability in space exploration. So, international cooperation, financial resources, regulatory frameworks, but not only on national or European level, but also in an international level. For that reason, what is very important is the diplomatic efforts, and this is, I guess, a new element to take into account. So let's just summarize: international cooperation, financial resources, stability in financial resources, regulatory frameworks at national, European, and international level, diplomatic efforts to sign international treaties and to share a common framework, technological innovation. I think these are the maybe possible, feasible solutions to follow in order to preserve security, peace, and cooperation. My colleagues already talk about different collaboration environment. My colleague from ASI already mentioned the NATO initiative. So let's just underline the Diana initiative in NATO, the Defense Innovation Accelerator for North Atlantic. One of the first calls that will be launched in June, so now at the end of June. One of the first call, let's say, challenges, as they call the ground for collaboration is on space exploration. So, what is hard? It's hard to just make a fine-tuning sometimes between national initiative, EU initiative, bilateral initiative, multilateral initiatives, and NATO initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottoressa Riccardi. And now, due to limitation, we leave the floor to Dottoressa Muti, who will close the panel. And so, please, Dottoressa Muti, it's up to you to wrap up and answer to this question.
Thank you very much. It's a difficult task, but I will be very short. I just want to ask what my what other panelists said, that I think if I had to choose one urgent issue is to concentrate on is space traffic management. So finding rules of the road, finding a shared orbital flight rules, because the probability of collision in space is now very high, and it is something that it is in the interest of both states and private actors. So I would say that this is maybe the most urgent thing, and international organizations are the perfect fora for this kind of discussion of alignment. So I completely agree on this. But on regulation, I would add we need a regulation, but without hampering innovation. So I think this is an important element. In Europe, sometimes we, compared to the United States, we have some, let's say, challenges more in being innovative and fast enough in innovation at European level. So I would just like to add this element of regulating without jeopardizing innovation. And I will close here. Thank you, Marcello.
No, thank you, Carolina. It's important this point of innovation, because it's related to the to what we said on the research, which enables not only competition but also collaboration. I've been asked to close this panel now, so I really would like to thank the panelists for their time and their consideration, and I really hope to meet you all in person quite soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for all the panelists, e auguri di pronta guarigione a Marcello. The last keynote speech of this moment about space and the scientific challenge of the century. I would to call to come here Emilio Fortunato Campana, Director of Engineering, ECT and Technology for Energy and the Transportation Department of the CNR. Prego.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Dr. Cerno. I promise you to be quick because we have the coffee break coming. So let me go quickly through the next slide. I don't know if everybody knows CNR. CNR is the National Research Council of Italy. It's a large organization. It's the largest organization for research in Italy. It's about 10,000 people. 88 research institutes and 7 departments. My department has 15 institutes and 1,700 full-time people. Okay, so just keep all the click. Sure. Just as a short introduction, what is the status of what we see and what we see from Italy? This is the government point. That's the government view at the moment, divided into the decalogue, 10 points that we can all agree on that, because it was a combination of a joint large meeting among all the branches, institutions, research, finance, and industry. So give centrality to space policies, to strengthen the international relationship, to reinforce the presence of Italy in strategic areas, to support the growth and consolidation for the industrial sector, to promote development of venture capital, facilitate the scientific and industrial research, and for the space economy in general. Mainly sustainability, something that is really important also in space activity. Safety and also security of space and critical infrastructure is an important topic that everybody understands easily. to fix and cementify the legislative and regulatory framework and increase the number of students. So if we go to the next slides, and if we put this in this type of sketch, in which we have institution, industry, research, and finance, we see that most of the topics are in the top part because they are closely connected to the institution, so that we need a general setup for this sector. We need it for investment. We need it to do research. We need to be at the same pace of the other countries. We need to consolidate our leadership in this field. So we need a large effort from the institution. We need to have a clear picture and a boost that can be done only by the government. And I think this is one of the most important things that we have to agree on. Industry and research, they can do whatever they want, but we need something that is not only at the Italian level for sure, but at the European level at least. Okay, next slide. This one and the next slide are coming from a talk from the Istituto of Affari Internazionali. So this is just to give you an idea of this of the international budget that is associated to the space activities. You see that there are different type of estimation. Satellite Industry Association, Space Foundation, IDA, but the trend is always up in the last few years. Next slide. So if we split the type of the sector in which the budget is concentrated, you can see that the actually commercial satellites and launches that in principle one should think it should be the largest part is the smallest part. So the government space budget is large, the ground station equipment is large, the commercial, the space product and services in general are large, and the satellite is relatively small. Investment anyway in Europe is growing and is growing fast. There may be some problem, there might be some slowdown due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but we believe that this sector is going to be a $1 trillion sector in the next few years. Next slide. So let's go quickly to what CNR is doing. Since we have a different type of department, physics, chemistry, materials, engineering, earth science and environment, it's not easy to have a clear picture of what we have, what we produce, because it's so fragmented, but I try to give an overview. So Earth observation for sure is one of the hot topics at CNR. It has many applications, which is connected in partially with civil protection, protezione civile, because many CNR institute, they are competent center for the civil protection. That means that when there is an emergency, they are active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they give support to the civil protection in real-time operation for flooding, earthquakes. You know that Italy is a beautiful country, but it's very fragile, and it's the ground, the soil is relatively new. So it's in the middle of the Mediterranean. That means it's in the middle of tectonic movement. So we all know that we have experience of in our life to witness an earthquake, which is not something common in the rest of the world, but for us it's common experience. So Earth observation is important also for the environment. Now is important also because we can establish some indicators of biodiversity, some indicators related to heat islands, or the humidity at the soil, the prevention for the fire in the forest. So it has a lot of application also in establishing the transformation velocity of the soil, which is relevant for critical infrastructure. If we want to assess the safety of the infrastructure, that's an important topic. New observational platform. We are working very much. We are working a lot on a stratospheric platform together with CIRA, with the Italian Aerospace Research Center located in Capua, which is closely connected now to CNR. And they have a long tradition. We have an important project which is restricted, but I think that we are going to launch the first prototype is going to be launched in the coming spring, so in less than 1 year. New observational payload. This is what most of our colleagues of the physics department they are working on. And multi-platform and data management. We have in my department we have the ICT department and all the digital part of the CNR. So we work a lot on big data, on artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, and of course, big data is one of the invisible platform that is necessary to be aware and to be ready to work on, because it's we are accumulating a large amount of data that we have to do something with this data, so I think that is important for us. Next slide. Okay. Closely related to space in general, and we believe that are coming quickly from the future to in front of us, is quantum information. So, do you know the project connected to the National Recovery Funds? There's one closely connected to quantum technology, and CNR is working on this topic with a big effort of people. Micro and nanostructures of different dimensions based on condensed matter. This is also a relevant research topic at the moment. Energy, electrical systems, production of energy and new fuels on board. It's production of renewable energy on board is something that is an important topic at CNR. And so, can you go back just? Yes, innovative. Okay, thank you. So we can skip this one because we just give you further picture. Okay. So ongoing activities. Let's make a summary. Aerospace technology in general, in collaboration with CIRA, with the Italian Aerospace Research Center. Aerospace methodologies. I'm referring especially to big data and technology for the analysis of what we see. Space surveillance, space debris, as Dr. Morabito from ENEA was mentioning before. Space debris is one of the worries that everybody has at the moment, especially with the increasing, exploding number of micro, mini, and nano satellites. We are going to we have and I promise to be quicker. Okay, so we have a flight in the coming June, hopefully. On the mission is Virtute 1. It's a flight on Virgin Galactic, together with the Italian Air Force, and we will conduct some microgravity experiments on that. And satellite communication, also we have a lot of experiments on this topic, and we have two classified projects. I can only show you what already has appeared on the has been developed, been launched only on the newspaper. So we tested the new propulsion system, which is it's an innovative propulsion system, and it makes reusable the stuff. So in the direction of sustainability. We can see the different steps. We tested from ground, we tested mounted below the wing, so that we can also assess the aerodynamic loads. Next, this is, if you can go to minute to about one after the first minute. At about 55 seconds, 1 minute, yeah, one, okay. Okay. A little more. This is what we've been testing. Okay, perfect. It's ready. A little more. Wow. You can move the cursor. But anyway, it was the launch of the stuff. We saw the launch. Okay, thank you. Perfect. It went okay. Okay, last slide. Okay, I have a few slides, but this is just to summarize that we also coming to the topic of this workshop. We have a lot of activities, research activities going on, and we built an infrastructure which is a distributed infrastructure among different institutes of CNR, among 6 different institutes for advanced manufacturing, testing of millimeter wave and subterranean components and system for space application. So I don't have time to go into details, but this is something that is very important for us. Okay, thank you very much.
Grazie. One number in this moment we have at the workshop more than 140 guests, and now it's the moment of the coffee break time, and we after have the program, and we can run like Marcel Jacobs 15 minutes to coffee break.